On Nationwide this evening, we're visiting a suburb of Dublin which has so much to offer. Walking, cycling, sailing, great food, history, wildlife and a great day out. We're in the harbour town of Howth to discover a world apart on the doorstep of our capital. Good evening and you're welcome to Nationwide, and you're also welcome to the village of Howth in North County Dublin. And this evening we're going to explore all that Howth has to offer.
Do you want to go to the seaside? I'm not trying to say that everybody wants to go. I fell in love at the seaside. She handled her charm with time and sleight of hand.
Situated just north of Dublin and a convenient spin on the Dart, Howth has so much going on. If you're out for a day trip or even spending a few days in the area, you won't be short of things to do. Howth really is a gem on the east coast of Ireland, Shane, and as a local you know it well. Shane O'Doherty is a local with a passion for all things Howth.
Well, and yeah, I've been here the last 50 odd years, 57 years. It works for me so well because on the one hand it's so close to the city centre. It's so close to Dublin City, and yet it could be like 10,000 years away if you come out here, and most of the finest qualities of what you'd see in Ireland are all here in this confined space. We have our beaches, we have our cliffs, we have the beautiful heathland. It's a UNESCO biosphere, an area of outstanding natural beauty. The views, we have South Cliffs, we have the north, we have the islands, we have the fishing town. So everything that you might expect to find in a whole visit to Ireland, you can actually find in this small little island.
And it has a rich and deep history.
Yeah, and actually the history, it's almost a bit like Narnia in that those 10,000 years are all evident here if you know where to look, and it hasn't all been tarmacked over. We've had the Tuatha Dé Danann who named the place, gave it its old name and gave us the story of the Ready Boat. Their deal with the Celts, with Finn McCool. Cuchulainn and the lads loved it, spent all their time here, handed over to the Christians, the early Christians, the sons of Nessun, who left us with the Garland of Howth, who were then tracked down by the Vikings, gave the place the name Howth, which means the old Viking word for head, which is all it was on their charts. The Normans showed up here, Sir Armoricus Tristram, 1177. They are still here. They have Howth Castle. All of the major waves of European history have washed up on one of the coasts of this peninsula sooner or later, and here or there.
What an extraordinary way you've encapsulated the history of this area, and it's very enlightening.
Thank
but
you.
To bring us up to date in the modern world, I'm looking around at yachts. I know you're in charge of hiking and activities here, Shane. So what are the activities that a person might take up if they were to visit?
Well, what we really want to share is that you can do anything outside that you wish to do here. So I'm doing the hikes. We have the paddle boarding, anything on the water. We have the yachts. I'm sure you'll see the yacht club. Yachts, canoes, kite surfing, paddle boarding, motorboat drive, whatever it is you want to do on or off the land, we think you can do here, and we have a fine place to do it. We're doing the hiking, we're doing the electric bikes. So whatever it is, there's rock climbing. Whatever you think you might fancy to do outside, you can do it here, and you're only like 30 minutes from Dublin City. And so, Anne, when you've worn yourself out around here in the day, you can wrap it up in the evening with some of the best grub and grog that you'll find in Ireland. The seafood is just superb, comes out of the water right here, and it just makes for a wonderful evening to wind yourself down.
Well, you've whetted my appetite, and I'm off.
Okay.
See you in a bit. Bye-bye. Howth Yacht Club has been part of the community here since 1895 and continues to be all these years later. Ian Byrne is showing me around. Howth Yacht Club, you couldn't get a better day. It's really showing it off to its best. And it's very much part of the fabric of Howth for a long time, Ian, isn't that right?
Yeah, we celebrate 125 years next year. We've been here a long time. We've been part of the community. There's been sailing going here all that time, alongside the fishing and the other activities in the harbour. A lot has changed in that time, but one of the things that has, I suppose, been a chord that has run through that whole period, and you'll see it shortly, is the Howth 17, which is the oldest one-design keelboat in the world, still racing as originally designed in 1898. We've made the club very accessible to everybody. De facto, we're the community centre locally, so all public meetings, a lot of the clubs, whether it's Pilates or yoga, literary clubs, art classes, politicians meet here, the harbour authorities meet, so the club is open to everybody.
What kind of activities are on offer for the community at large?
Well, I suppose in the last couple of years the biggest initiatives is try and get kids involved, and teenagers and young adults is a big priority. So all the national schools locally participate in their STEM programs here, and it's run by our volunteers, and that's been really, really successful. And our local sailing authority and a lot of the other yacht clubs are looking at the success of that here and how it engages with the community. This year, for the first time, we'll run a transition year program. 130 girls will be starting in September. We'll be running through that. So again, there's big interest in that around the country.
And in terms of activities that are on offer, perhaps to a casual visitor to Howth, what can you offer?
Traditionally, yacht clubs, like all other clubs, are annual membership, and we've introduced a very low-cost one, which roughly speaking is about £1 a week, which makes a very, very good value, depending on your budget. And we also have our Quest brand, and the Quest brand enables you to go online or call us up and say, I'd like to experience sailing, or I'd like to learn some sailing, and here's the time I have available, and we'll fit you in. And it doesn't require membership. It's basically plug and play and go off and do what you want.
So is that the way clubs need to go?
Absolutely. There's a lot of research out there that shows what needs to be done, not just for sailing clubs, but also for golf, rugby, a lot of other sports.
From activities on the water to produce from the sea, Declan McManus has a passion for shellfish, which comes from right outside his door. Hey Declan,
how are you?
It's all happening. I see the boat's coming in.
It is. Steve's just on his way. We'll just go down and take his lines off from here.
Is this a daily occurrence for you then, Declan, pretty much? Yeah.
How are you doing, Steve?
Hi Steve, how are you? Oh, look at that.
Nice and fresh.
So fresh. Oh my gosh. Dare I ask how old that fella would be?
They say you can start eating them. They get to eating size at about 7.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so that'd be minimum kind of size we'd take.
And is that a typical haul then for a morning's fishing?
It's a good haul, yeah.
It's good.
For this time of year, yeah.
Lobsters today, Declan, but what might you find on other days?
Brown crab. A lot of whelks are fished here. Velvet crab.
And they're all fresh? It's
Oh,
all,
yeah.
Yeah, so it's all coming from the Irish Sea?
Oh, right there, yeah. Some of these would be caught 100 metres from the dining room.
Oh, wow. So fresh, no air miles there.
No, absolutely none.
Well, will we cook them up, Declan? I feel a bit harsh here, but you know what? Life's life.
Let's go.
Sorry, buddy. Back in his kitchen, Declan works his magic on the recently landed catch. Oh, here we are. And now, is this the little fellow we saw captured earlier?
This is him on the plate.
And how have you prepared the food?
This is one of our best sellers. It's lobster Dublin Lawyer. So it's finished with butter, Dijon mustard, whiskey and cream.
And Declan, you clearly have a passion for shellfish.
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up here and growing up in Howth in general, we have a lot on our doorstep here. You know, when you're growing up watching lobsters coming in the door every day, and you get into crab and then to oysters that we can get from our west coast here, mussels, and We do lobster about 8 different ways, which would be quite unique to here, and it is a lot of work to us. It's nearly more of a hobby, really.
And sitting here looking out at the Irish Sea, just conscious that there's no issue around food miles here, this must be a very an element of your business that you're very conscious of and proud to promote.
Absolutely, and every day it gets easier for us to just pick up the phone and ring prawns from all over the world and everything, but this is the real deal. Like this, some of this could have been caught 100 metres away, and a lot of the time it gets cycled over on a bike in the front door, straight into the kitchen, and it's out that evening.
Clearly here in the King Citric, lobster and shellfish are your specialities. But here in the harbour of Howth, there are a number of other places that would make it very well worth a visit for people coming out
Oh,
from the city.
absolutely. And it's not just the restaurants that we offer here. It's, you know, take some home with you. There's a few amazing fishmongers on the pier. There's Doran's, Kish Fish, Reed's, all really top class shops to bring it home with you.
And of course, for anybody who fancies fish and chips, you can get it down at the harbour there.
Absolutely. There's never a shortage of fish and chips in Howth.
Well, I'm going to try some of your lobster, and we're going to take a break now. And when we come back, we'll be bringing you more activities and history and fascinating stuff about Howth. We'll see you in a few minutes. You're welcome back to Nationwide, and you're welcome back to the village of Howth in County Dublin. Time now for me to take to the water.
Hi, Anne.
Ken Doyle runs Ireland's Eye Ferries.
You're looking forward to a lovely trip. Okay, all ready to set sail.
I'm taking it all in here, Ken, the stack of Ireland's Eye, and who would have thought it would be so plentiful with bird life and wildlife here?
Yes, and this is, as you say, the stack just off Ireland's Eye. It's home to a colony of gannets, the birds up the top there with the yellow on the top of their head and black wingspan. They've been coming here for centuries. Over the last few years, the population has increased and they've expanded onto the far side of the island as well.
And what we can see here at Ireland's Eye, something that your family has been involved in for many, many years now.
Yeah, 4 generations. My sons are the 4th generation. My grandfather, my father and myself have been doing the tours.
You set out from Howth and you offer a tour around Ireland's Eye. Taking in, I suppose, the points. I know people can drop off and walk onto the island,
Yeah, we do 2 tours, and we tour around the island, which is a scenic tour, lasting about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and we point out all the lovely scenery and the bird life and the cliffs and the tower, and you saw the seals earlier on. And alternative, you can get on the island and you can explore the scenery from the island itself. There's lovely walks right up to the summit, and you can see the vista all around North County Dublin and right into the port as well.
And what are the main features on the island itself that people are interested in?
Well, there's the ruins of a monastery, 8th century monastery, St. Nessan's Church. St. Nessan and his monks penned a version of the Gospels known as the Garland of Howth, and it's very similar to the Book of Kells. That's where it was penned in the 5th century. And there's a Martello Tower on the island, which is one of 23 Martello Towers all along the east coast, built by the British in 1803 when the British were fighting with Napoleon. And Napoleon never came, so the Martello Towers stood.
And Howth has 3 Martello Towers. Yeah. And of course people can simply come onto the island and have a picnic.
Yes, this side of the island is the cliffs, whereas the other side of the island has the beach. It's like a wedge-shaped island, and the beach is actually one of the few, if only, west-facing beach on the east coast.
The The National Transport Museum is located on the grounds of Howth Castle. John Curran is the secretary of this heritage centre.
Hi John, how are you?
Hello, Anne. You're very welcome.
I'm looking at these buses and vehicles, John, and it's bringing back all sorts of memories. It really is like stepping back in time coming up here.
It absolutely is, and people that visit are amazed at the vehicles that we have, from buses to fire engines to military vehicles to commercial vehicles, bread vans that had bread delivered to their homes in, milk floats, the same thing, and it brings them back in time to see what their parents experienced and what their grandparents experienced.
I'm stuck here again, back on memory lane.
And you're located in the grounds of Howth Castle. Is that significant in any particular way, or how does it lend itself for people to come and visit the museum?
Well, it was fortuitous, in fact, that we came here in 1986 because we had vehicles on display in our museum in County Wicklow. It was a little bit off the beaten track, so we had very little footfall there. Coming to Howth here, the owners of the castle at the time provided the facilities. They're old farm buildings, but they're very good insofar as that they've kept the vehicles under cover. And when people visit the actual castle itself and visit the grounds, they see the signs for the Transport Museum. They come here and they otherwise might have missed it. And as a result of that, they come at weekends. We're only open at weekends. They pay coming in the door, but they pay us helps to keep our head above water and helps to go into the restoration of all the vehicles here, because all our people are volunteers. We've got no paid staff whatsoever, and everything that we get financially goes into restoration.
The vehicles have been restored to a high standard, and of course by the team of volunteers who have put in hours and hours, I suppose years of work.
Yes, it goes back, as I say, in actual fact to 1949 when the whole thing started. And ever since then it's been volunteers that have done all the work. Salvaging vehicles, rescuing vehicles, restoring vehicles. We've all come from different walks of life, all different age groups, and we've all learned how to do things that we would not normally be able to do. Coach painting and coach building and mechanical side of things as well. So everything that's here has been restored by our own people.
There was once called memory lane. I don't know where I am.
And looking to the future, John, what are your hopes and plans?
Well, we're hopeful that at long last the state is taking an interest in what we're doing, and the Department of Culture, Heritage and Gaeltacht have come on board since 2015 and have helped us tremendously since then. And we're hoping that eventually we will have a proper state-funded transport museum.
Incredible. So John, this is the actual tram that serviced the route between Howth and Sutton many, many years ago.
Yes, up until 1959. There were 10 of them, and the service was withdrawn in May of 1959. They're double-decker trams. 4 of them were saved. One of them went to Belfast Transport Museum and is on display there. Another one went to the UK and one went to the United States. And the 4th one that was saved was this particular one. But the apathy and disinterest at the time meant that it was put in a field effectively for storage and ended up being vandalised. And when the Transport Museum eventually got hold of it, it was basically a wreck. And what you see today has been the work of many, many hours of volunteer labour over a period of something like 5 years. And the guys had got the plans for the original trams and worked off those plans and were able to recreate exactly as it was back in those days.
And you know what I love about this is the fact that the seats come back and forth. And give us a bit of an explanation on that, John.
Well, the tram was unidirectional insofar as that there was a driver at one end, and when he got to the terminus, he went to the other end of the tram, and the seats could then be moved in whatever direction was appropriate so that you'd be facing forward.
So simple, beautiful design, and here we are with this vehicle, and it's still perfectly authentic.
Absolutely, and being in Howth, it's important as well, because we would hope that someday it could be actually made mobile again, because all the work has been done on the bodywork and mechanically is currently ongoing. So it could very well be used again someday.
And it would be lovely to see people travelling.
It would be a huge tourist attraction.
Absolutely. Yeah. Next up, Howth Village. Woohoo!
Back up on memory lane.
Well, high on the list of recommendations is an evening bike tour. I'm told Aileen Turvey at Howth Adventures might make it a little bit easy for me.
How are you?
Pleased to meet you.
Well, I am hearing that the way to travel around Howth is by electric bike, no less.
it's the only way to travel around Howth, particularly if you don't want to get out of breath and be on a road bike. They're simple, easy, reactive and great fun.
Well, I'm liking the sound of that. So what kind of tours do you offer here?
We have panoramic e-bike tours. They are for corporate groups. They are on offer for tourists mostly at the moment, but lots of locals are participating and enjoying views that they have forgotten were there.
And what can you see?
You can see the islands here. You can see Ireland's Eye, Lamb Bay. You can see as far as the Mourne Mountains, but particularly what's most interesting about this tour is that we get around the south side of the peninsula, which no other tour does, and we get the magnificent views of Dublin Bay, Wicklow Mountains and the whole surrounding area of the bay.
Oh wow, Aileen, this is absolutely unbelievable view of Dublin Bay. So familiar to us, and yet this is such an unusual vantage point.
It's incredible. Takes everybody's breath away every single time we come here. You can see Dalkey Island, you see Bray Head, the Wicklow Mountains, beautiful Dublin Bay, the Dublin City, all the way along the fabulous Bull Island, which is an incredible nature reserve and part of the biosphere, all the way around to the Martello Tower and here. Stunning. Yeah.
Get up on your bike. I go on. Get up on your bike. Pedal on, pedal on, pedal on for miles, pedal on. Pedal on, pedal on, pedal on for miles, pedal on.
Where are we now on our cycle tour?
We're now
of Howth?
at the Bailey Lighthouse in Howth. The whole area is called the Bailey. The views are absolutely stunning. This walk here will take you all the way up to the summit. You can take walking tours all the way around to Sutton, where we've just been, and 1.2 million visitors actually take this route every year just to visit the lighthouse and back around to Howth.
There's a reason for this.
Oh my goodness, what an amazing view.
And we couldn't let you go without showing you this iconic shot of the Bailey Lighthouse, and also one of the most iconic shots of Dublin. You can see now this evening, you can see as far as Dalkey Island, you can see Bray Head, you can even see Wicklow and potentially Arklow and Wexford. The views are absolutely spectacular.
It really sums up what Howth is all about, really. It's this perfect entity, isn't it, with nature and architecture and wellness.
Wellness and wildness as well. We still have such fantastic nature around us, and it's not overdeveloped, which still makes you feel like you could be out in the middle of the country and you're only 20 minutes from Dublin.
Well, I have to say the electric bikes are great for travelling around Howth, especially for the hills, even if my balance isn't so good coming off it. And I have to say I've really enjoyed my day here and all the things that I've done. And maybe our programme this evening has given you food for thought if you want to visit the area. And so, from all of us on the Nationwide team, good evening.
On next Friday's Nationwide, in advance of the Rose of Tralee, we meet the current Rose and have the story of her mother and father and how they met and ended up in County Waterford.